Hi there, Natalie with you today with a new process video for Pink Fresh Studio. And today's project is all about adding lots of glitz and like sparkle to a project. And I'm actually going to use quite a bit of the washi tape on some of the hot foil plates. So I'm starting with the Poinsettia Washi Tape, and you're going to see that I'm actually going to put it on top of some white cardstock. I am using squeegee tool. You can use your bone folder or a gift card or a credit card, whichever is just going to help you push the air bubbles when you attach the washi tape onto the cardstock. I'm using my X-Acto knife just to trim the panel, and then I'm going to use the coordinating die just to cut all the pieces. And this die comes all in one piece, so it takes just one pass to have all the pieces ready. Usually when I go into like creating this type of panels or using this type of washi tape, I can run 4 or 5 at once, so I have them ready. It's always good to have at hand. So I'm done with all my washi tape. I'm gonna go into the foiling part. So we're gonna create all the pieces that we need before we actually start building the layout. So I'm gonna go into quite a bit of foiling. I am using my Spellbinder's foiling machine, and I'm gonna use, actually the first thing I'm gonna create is some diagonal stripe foil. For that I'm using the diagonal stripes hard foil plate. And you're gonna see that I'm just following the instructions of my machine. I'm using hammer mill cardstock to create the foil plate. It actually works really well with the foil. And I'm actually going to use also foils that are pink. I'm using pink, aura, gold, and citrine, because those are the colors that are actually in the Poinsettia washi tape. So like I said before, I just went out of town and literally had like an hour long like foiling session. I created pretty much one of each of the panels, the diagonal stripe panel, and I also use the hard foil plate to have the negative part. I also use the sweet coordinating foil plate and also the die set to create some of the word sweet. And I also used the Thrill of Hope wreath hard foil plate to create some of the sentiments. And again, I use the hard foil plate, the solid hard foil plate, to get the negative and the positive part of it, so that I have, ones that have the letters foiled and other ones that have the letters like as a white space, but everything around it as a foil piece. So just like I said, I created first all my pieces, and then I took the negative pieces with the solid hard foil plate and I foiled that part, and then I'm just using the dies to cut them. So now that I have everything ready, I'm actually going to use all the leftover pieces, all the negative pieces that I created from the diagonal stripes and other pieces that I had. I'm actually going to use, this is the Essential Shaker Stars die set. I'm actually going to cut stars out of it. My idea is to have a combination of stars and washi tape on my layout, but I want to make sure that when I cut the stars, I don't cut them all out of the the stripe lines. I want to have a combination of the white space of the cardstock and some of the foil. And for that, I make sure that when I foil, like when I use the negative, you can call the negative, when I use the hard foil plate, I actually used a larger piece of cardstock so that I had like pieces that were white and pieces that had foil, so that I can, when I create my stars, I can have that combination. So again, I cut stars of each one of the cardstock, so I have a nice combination of colors. Now that I have everything ready, it's time to build my layout. I'm starting with vanilla cardstock. It's kind of like a really soft, kind of peachy, like blush tone. I am gonna add a little bit of coral reef ink to the back of my layout, so to my base. I just want to make sure to create like a halo of color around my photo. So you're gonna see that I'm just taking my ink blending brush, I'm just dabbing it on top of the ink pad, and I'm going on a circular motion on top of the stencil. Like I said, my idea is to have stars and flowers kind of cascade from the top of the page. So I'm just adding color to around the area where the photo is going to sit. So I'm going to make sure that I create a halo of color, and then I'm just going to stretch it a little bit to the top, kind of fading it out. Simple as that, nothing complicated. Like I said, I just want the halo on the background that's gonna make everything that I put on top of it just kind of pop a little bit more. And I'm not using white cardstock because I wanted the edges of the stars and of the flowers that I'm creating to pop. If I were to use white on white is beautiful, but I just wanted something of color on the base that will make everything else stand out. So you're gonna see now that I have it ready, I want to bring more of glitz to the background. So I went and pulled the Slimline Star Builder layering stencil, and I actually went and pulled stickles, and the stickles that I pulled actually is the one that has glitter and little gold stars. And my idea was to just use the smallest, because it's a layering stencil, so I'm going to use the smallest star stencil, which is number 3. And my idea was to run the stickles with my palette knife and just make sure that I deposit like, a little tiny star in each one of the spaces of the stars from the stencil. Doesn't work as I planned because stickles tend to be really sticky to each other. So I kind of think of it as an elastic. It kind of stayed on top of the stencil instead of in the holes of the stars that I wanted to. So once I ran all my stickles through the stencil, I actually had to lift it and like literally put a star by star in each one of the holes, just to have that like I said, I wanted those pops of the little stars with a little bit of glitter around it. I wanted something really glitzy because it's gonna be a very simple layout, so I wanted to make sure that there was quite a bit of like that pop of shine on the page to make it stand out. So here you're gonna see it lift it up. I have the glitter down, but I don't have the stars. So all I'm gonna do is just with my palette knife, just literally pull one of the stars from the stencil and lay it on top of each one of the glitter stars that I have on my background. Simple as that, nothing complicated. I don't have a complete pattern, and by that I mean I did not like add the stickles, or whichever you can use texture paste if you want to. I did not want to add it as a block, so you're gonna see that it looks like a uneven shape, and that's the way I want it. I don't want something that is gonna define a space. I want something really free form for the background. So once I have that, I went and added a few drops of gold ink. I just want, like I said again, think about a lot of glitz on the background, and I set it aside to dry, and then I'm gonna start working on my layout. First thing I did is I backed the picture with a piece of a paper from the 6x6. I went with something that had gray and white. I want something very plain, and I added some foam adhesive behind the photo just to make sure that I can actually make it pop from the page. So I pulled the paper from the Holiday Magic 6x6 paper pad. So now I'm gonna start setting up my idea, and this took me a while. First thing I did is I cut one of the reeds from the Poinsettia Washi Tape. I cut it into 2 different pieces. I don't want the circles, I want them as different, as separated pieces, and I really like the curvature of the wreath, but I don't want to waste all those flowers, so I just trimmed some of it out. And my idea is to have, like I said, a cascade of stars and flowers coming down from the top to the bottom of my page, kind of wrapping around my photo. And this took me a while, just because when you're combining foil and stars, combining foiling and flowers, just gotta be very careful in this case that everything works harmoniously. So you're gonna see that I'm gonna put something on the paper, and the key here is less is more, like literally less is more. Just because you already have the shape of the star, you have the foil in the stars, you have all the gold details on the poinsettia, so you have to make sure that you don't do too much. You're gonna see that I love the formation of the stars, but the more flowers that I add, the less that you can see of the stars, that it just looks like a mess. So the key is to kind of minimize. So it took me a while to create this. I had to play with some configurations. I'm adding some foam adhesive behind the pieces, but I'm not pressing down so it doesn't, it's like stuck to the paper, just so that I have the dimension. And I actually took a break from it, put it aside, took a break, went for a cup of coffee, and came back, just because, like I said, I just kept working at it. It wasn't gelling in my brain like I had the idea. So again, put it aside, went for a cup of coffee, came back, and decided to pull some of the flowers, just minimize it, so that you know, you can see the foil in the stars and also the flowers. There's not that much going on, so there's no competition. So less was more in this for this design, especially because you have the foil that's quite shiny. You see a little bit here in real life, it's actually really shiny, and it goes really nice because the colors in the foils actually match the ones in the flowers. You're gonna see that I'm just adding flowers. It looks like a mess. I gotta be honest, you know, it doesn't look like a mess, it's just a lot. It's nothing is gelling. So like I said, I took a break because it was just not, you know, you don't want to get frustrated. Instead, I just go for a walk, go get a coffee. I came back and I just started pulling some of the pieces out, and I was happy what it looked like. For example, at the bottom, that star that has the citrine foil, I pulled it out. It was too much. It was making it really heavy at the bottom, so I took it out. All the flowers that are on top of the picture, there's just too many. You're losing the definition of the flowers and the definition of the stars. So I pulled some of those flowers out, and I just minimized it, and it just helped. I already have quite a bit going on, so like I said, I'm gonna repeat it because it was something that I repeated for myself. Less is more, and it just worked out at the end. The design is beautiful. You can see the shine here. In real life, it shines even more. So you know, it's a very simple design, but it's a little bit tricky, just like I said, because of the flowers and, you know, all those foil details. So you're gonna see right now, took a break, came back, put some of the flowers out, and I'm liking it better. Once I was happy with what it looked like, I'm actually gonna bring some of those foil pieces that I created using the Thrills of Hope wreath. You know, I had foiled those sentiments and also the sweet sentiment. I'm gonna use one of the sweet sentiment, the negative piece of it at the top, and I'm gonna use one of the Thrill of Hope, the one that says the Season of Hope, right on the space between the star and the bottom of my page. Season of Wonder, no Season of Hope, my apologies. And then my title, that's one of the things that I actually kind of struggle a little bit with. I wanted to use something that was foiled, but I actually went back and just pulled one of this ephemera pieces, the titles from the Holiday Magic collection. I want something that had pink and yellow, just because it kind of the colors that I have on the background. I'm using quite a few of the cardstock stickers from the Holiday Magic collection, just because they're gonna bring the sentiment into the layout, and I'm gonna place them around the picture and around some of the stars, so that I have that horizontal kind of phrase look, you know, those cardstock sticker little phrase shapes like rectangles. So I'm gonna play with that shape too into my layout. And then here's what the title, it says, this is the season to sparkle, and then the one at the bottom says let your light shine, and that's my daughter playing her guitar, which is something she loved, and that's one of the presents she got a couple years ago, and she loved it. I am gonna add my lines to journal right on top of the word sparkle, and I'll do it that upside of the camera. And once I was done, I was like, you know what, this needs like to be framed. It needs something that is just going to bring it all together. It's just kind of floating in space. So my choice was to go ahead and trim around 1/2 inch from the right hand side of the cardstock, and I'm also going to trim around 1/4 inch from the bottom of the layout, and I'm gonna back it with this paper from the Holiday Magic collection, which is the same paper that I used for the picture, but in a 6x6. Is the one that has the black, not the gray, sorry, the grade grid on the background, and I thought it was a great neutral tone, and because it has the white, it's gonna make the background, because it's that blush kind of pop. And but I'm not gonna frame the entire page. I'm just gonna frame the bottom half, like the bottom of the page. So that means that the top of the page is gonna sit flush against the top of the paper. And that's about it. I love how this turned out. Like I said before, it took me a while to make sure that the flowers, like, you know, work nicely with the stars, but once I have that done, it was super simple. Took a lot of prep, but I love the finished details. As always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There's always tons of beautiful content being added. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon, guys. Take care.